It's been a while, so I wanted to give you our updated quarterback and tight end rest of season rankings. Starting off with the quarterbacks, S tier, we are going to have Josh Allen leading us off now. I very easily could be biased with this. I understand Josh Allen is not currently the QB1 in fantasy, and it seems like Josh Allen, as somebody who has him myself, has been extremely disappointing. And then you take a step backwards and you go, okay, well, what has Josh Allen done to be extremely disappointing? Because he's averaging 42 rushing yards a game. Oh, he's only at 22 points per game. What are we crying about here? Like 22 points per game, still great. I mean, it's the same mark that he had in 2024. He averaged 23 points per game in 2023, 23 points per game in 2022, 23 points per game in 2021, 24 points per game in 2020. So we are now in the 6th straight season of Josh Allen averaging 22 points per game or more. And we have seen Josh Allen never miss a game, essentially. So I would still rank Josh Allen as the QB1. I'm not going to fault you at all if you want to put Patrick Mahomes there, because Mahomes has been running the ball almost as much this year, where Patrick Mahomes is at 36 rushing yards per game now. Obviously, with Patrick Mahomes, he's very smart. He only ever runs if he has to. Like if you see the Kansas City Chiefs lose a game, Patrick Mahomes will be out there scrambling like he did against the Chargers with 57 rushing yards and the rushing touchdown. Against the Eagles, 66 rushing yards and the rushing touchdown. Against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 60 rushing yards and the rushing touchdown. But now we actually see Mahomes coming through with the passing volume as well. So you're going to get that really nice floor ceiling combo, regardless of if the Chiefs blow out the other team or not. We've seen over the past 4 games, Patrick Mahomes with 11 passing touchdowns and Patrick Mahomes with at least 250 passing yards in every single one of those contests. And now you have Rashee Rice back in. You have Xavier Worthy healthy. And you have Hollywood Brown in there as well. So this is the best wide receiver room that Patrick Mahomes has had in quite some time. And he's clearly operating at the next level. Now, Lamar Jackson is through the bye week, and Lamar Jackson looks like he's going to be good to go in terms of his hamstring injury going into the future. The reason I'm saying that is if you just go ahead and you look at sportsbooks, they currently have the Baltimore Ravens as heavy favorites this next week over the Chicago Bears. So I would assume that Lamar is good to go. We go through and look at what Lamar Jackson had done the first 3 games this season. He had 29, 26, and 27 points in his first 3 weeks. So Lamar Jackson does look like he is still the elite level quarterback you drafted. And it sucks that you had him injured for a couple weeks, but he should be good to go after the bye. And yeah, I mean, if you wanted to rearrange the quarterbacks in S tier in whatever order you wanted, you can put Lamar at 1, put Allen at 3, put Mahomes at 1. I really don't care. I think that they're all the elite names and it's up to you. The one thing I will point out is Josh Allen as well as Lamar Jackson have already gone through their bye week and Patrick Mahomes has not. So you're going to get an extra game out of those other 2 QBs. Now let's move down to Jalen Hurts. Now I know Jalen Hurts has a lot of haters for whatever reason. I focus in on the fantasy football aspect of things. And from a fantasy perspective, Jalen Hurts has been an elite quarterback for a long, long time, which is why I loved him in underdog drafts this year, where if we go through and look at Hurts, he has averaged 20 points per game every single season over the past 5. Very similar to Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts does not miss time. It doesn't matter how many times you push that tush, he will stay healthy and he will be out there. With Hurts, he's had 7 carries inside the 5-yard line so far this season. With Jalen Hurts, he's currently sitting with a total of 5 rushing TDs. And honestly, I think you can maybe see some more from Hurts going into the future. Looking at just the week-to-week projections that you have with Jalen Hurts, he has an even probability of scoring that rushing touchdown higher or lower on Underdog Fantasy for this next Sunday. And that's going to be the case pretty much every single week. Now, of course, if you wanted to go through and say that Jalen Hurts will score a touchdown, won't score a touchdown, you can always do so on Underdog Fantasy. They're the #1 sports app in the App Store for 3 reasons. 1, they're an incredible app. 2, they're available in almost every state. And 3, they have the best promos in the industry right now, where if you sign up with code FLOCK, you're going to get $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you're going to be getting a free Justin Herbert pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for the game on Thursday. Plus, you'll be getting free questions to ask me in the live streams, and we're streaming every single day until Christmas. Now, Dak Prescott will be our next QB. If you're looking at Dak, the passing volume is well above anybody else in the NFL. He's currently averaging 268 passing yards per game. And if you look at the passing touchdowns, they're right there as well, where over the past 4 games, he's had at least 3 passing touchdowns in every single contest. And we know that those passing attempts are going to stay very high just because this Dallas Cowboys team is always going to have extremely high over-unders in the games that they play because their defense is absolute garbage. To just go through and pull up what we have right now for the over-under of the Dallas Cowboys game this next week as an example, I mean, you already know that it's at the very top of the league. Despite you playing against the Denver Broncos, who have a very strong defense, you currently have the over-under at 47.5 points. And this is always going to be the case, like I said, because the Cowboys defense will be bad. So Dak is going to have to consistently drop back, and you have Lamb healthy now. Now, Drake May has been incredible. Drake May is going to be our QB6. In terms of points per game, he's up at 21 points per game, which is pretty much identical to Dak Prescott, identical to Jalen Hurts. I would probably opt to go with the veteran quarterbacks ahead of May, just given the fact that you are looking at the larger sample that we have, where I can go back over the past 5 years and say, well, you know what? Jalen Hurts has been elite for 5 seasons now. You can't exactly do that with Drake May, but things are trending in a phenomenal direction. We knew this coming into the season, but the New England Patriots have just an absolute cakewalk of a schedule. Drake May is also running the ball, where he has 28 rushing yards per game, which is actually more than any other quarterback in the NFL this season, not named Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Jackson Dart. May looks incredible from a real life perspective and incredible from a fantasy one. Then Jaden Daniels will be our next name. If we are looking at Daniels, the points per game and really any per game statistics are going to get thrown off just because he's gotten injured in multiple games now. He looked like he was set up to have an absolute all-time fantasy performance against the Dallas Cowboys, where you had him with 35 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown, and about 18 fantasy points before going down. I just can't rank Jaden Daniels right now until we know more about this injury. They're telling us, hey, it's not super significant. It's not like Daniel's going to be missing 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. I have no idea how much time he will miss. I can look at sportsbooks right now and I can say, oh, okay, well, they have the Commanders as heavy dogs at the moment, where currently you actually have the Kansas City Chiefs as 9.5-point favorites over them. So I'm going to assume that Jaden Daniels, at the very minimum, is missing this next week. And now that he's had a multitude of lower body injuries, of course, we got to be concerned. Then going over to Baker Mayfield, I want to sit here and I want to go like, oh, okay, he was the MVP, blah, 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 before this Detroit game. Here's the thing. If Mike Evans is injured, if Igbuka's not 100%, and if Chris Godwin's injured, like, it's not Baker's fault. Like, clearly Baker's playing a phenomenal quarterback at the moment, but just the weapons going down around him is going to make it much tougher to get excited about him for fantasy purposes in comparison to these other names, especially knowing that you're not going to see him running the ball as much. He still is running the ball somewhat, though, giving you 22 rushing yards per contest. Now, I actually may need to consider moving Daniel Jones ahead of Baker Mayfield in our rest of season rankings, because with Daniel Jones, 1, he's averaging more points per game. 2, it's not like he just lost Mike Evans. And 3, he's out there running the ball like a madman as well. He's actually averaging more rushing yards per game than Baker. And we know that Daniel Jones does give you the rushing touchdowns as well. So Daniel Jones, super interesting quarterback. I think the Indianapolis Colts are by far and away the #1 team in the league at this point in terms of the point differential. I want to at least point out, though, this is very clearly a rush-first offense where you've only seen Daniel Jones go over 30 pass attempts in 3 games this year, and we haven't seen him go over 34 in a single one. Now, of course, a lot of that has to do with the fact they're winning games. They can run the ball, and doesn't mean that Daniel Jones can't get in a shootout. He definitely can. Now, going over to our next quarterback, we are going to have Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, still a good option. Don't get me wrong. He's looked very inconsistent, though, where he had 4.5 points against the New Orleans Saints this past week, 11.8 points against the Raiders. He had shown a ton of rushing upside at the very beginning of the season. And honestly, I need to take an L here because after week 1, I was victory lapping. I was coming out here going, oh my goodness, I told you so. Caleb Williams is going to run the ball more than he did last year. Getting all excited because he had 58 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Since then, this dude has averaged like 12 rushing yards a game. I mean, less than that. He's averaging like 10 rushing yards a game since you've had the week 1 performance against Minnesota. So if he's not running the ball nearly as much, he's just going to be boom bust based off passing volume. Like, you can make an argument that Justin Herbert should be moved ahead of Caleb Williams as well. The thing with Herbert is just because the offensive line's absolutely decimated, I am going to be a little bit more hesitant here. Realistically, how I would view these tiers is if I had a quarterback in B tier or higher, when they're healthy, must start name every single week. Quarterbacks in C and D tier, I would like to roster 2 of these guys and play the matchups between both of them. Like Bo Nix this past week, right? He blows up 40 points against the New York Giants. Leads this team to an incredible comeback. And what's actually very interesting with Bo Nix is when they get to the goal line, they're letting him throw the ball. If you look at this on flockfantasy.com, you'll see that Bo Nix is actually averaging 1.5 pass attempts inside the 5-yard line. He's had a carry inside the 5-yard line this season as well. He actually has had 3 rushing touchdowns, so he is running the ball a bit more. I mean, obviously he did against the New York Giants this past week. But if we were looking at how we rank him, is he a must-start option for us now? No. Jared Goff's not a must-start option for us either. We know Jared Goff. And good matchups, you can jam him. And bad matchups, he's going to be scary because you just simply have no rushing upside whatsoever. He's never ran the ball. And then in D tier, we're going to have Jordan Love. The Packers want to play good defense and run the football, which they're going to be able to do in the majority of their games. So obviously that's going to limit the overall passing volume that we have with Jordan Love. He's only had 2 games with more than 30 passing attempts this season. Going over and looking at Brock Purdy, I don't know why I keep on ranking Brock Purdy at this same spot because I have no idea when he's coming back. Like, it seems like we haven't had Brock Purdy in this offense in forever. I have no idea when he'll be back. Jackson Dart, I mean, comes through back-to-back games where he's been a top 3 quarterback in fantasy. He's been incredible. But realistically, I hate to go back to this. And of course, if you want to say, oh, Mason, these are garbage, blah, blah, blah. You do you. But right now, you actually do have a spread on this game against the Philadelphia Eagles of about a touchdown, where you do have the Giants project to be a bottom 5 offense in the league this week. But Dart's going to run the ball, though. So even a bad offense, of course, he can be viable. And then looking at Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's at the very top of the NFL when it comes to actual passing volume. And I think you have to say that Sean McVay is the best coach in the NFL, right? Like, the fact that you are getting here with Matthew Stafford with no Puka Nacua, 5 passing touchdowns this past week. I mean, Matthew Stafford, 2 interceptions to 17 passing touchdowns so far this season. Obviously, a lot of this is based off Stafford being a great quarterback, but also, god dang, McVay is a freaking kingmaker. But he's not going to run the ball, so I really only want to play him based off matchups. Now, going over to tight ends, you can go back and forth between Trey McBride and Tyler Warren. I think realistically, Trey McBride may be in his own tier if you add Jacoby Brissett in as the starter rest of season. Because now you've actually seen Trey McBride back-to-back games with over 20 fantasy points with Jacoby in under center. And that's been the only time he's done it all season. He's had back-to-back games with double-digit targets. I mean, he's scoring more touchdowns now than he's ever done with Kyler. But Kyler's probably going to be coming back after the Week 8 bye. And then looking at Tyler Warren averaging 14.5 points per game. He's doing so with a lot less volume than McBride, where he's only at 6.5 targets a contest. But, I mean, his efficiency has been insane. I mean, he's up there at 9.8 yards per target. And then, obviously, they just want to get him the ball any way they can. They're using him as a gadget player. Now, the reports that we have right now are going to be that Brock Bowers is coming back after the Week 8 bye. I don't really want to take too much away from the weeks 3 and 4 for Brock Bowers, where he's only scoring 9.5 points, because he clearly wasn't healthy, right? They had to go ahead and they had to shut him down, and they essentially had to give him a month-long break. But if Bowers comes back in the week after week 8, and he is at 100% strength, he has the talent where obviously he could be the tight end 1 in fantasy. And then going over to B tier, I'm sorry, I have no idea how to rank these guys. Jake Ferguson, I was an idiot, and I put in a sell high video with CeeDee Lamb coming back in, thinking that target volume was going to stray away. And Jake Ferguson turns out to be just the best touchdown scorer in all of football. You're looking over the past month, this dude has scored a total of 6 touchdowns. Has he had a ton of target volume? Not really. He's had 26 targets and 6 touchdowns. Now, the one part of my brain wants to say, oh, this is efficiency that's not going to be able to remain. Put George Kittle ahead of him, you coward. And then I have to remind myself that George Kittle had 0 points against the Atlanta Falcons his first week back in. George Kittle's a tight end in his 30s, coming off what seemed to be a pretty significant injury, and now is not doing anything. So I still think Kittle's the top 5 tight end rest of season. But if Ferguson's averaging 17.2 points per game, and Ferguson's the tight end 1 in fantasy so far this year, tough for me to put Kittle ahead of him. And then Tucker Kraft is just a super solid option. He actually had 10 targets this past week, which I believe was actually a career high for Tucker Kraft. And we obviously know not only do you have the red zone involvement, but you have the big play upside as well. Now, Sam Laporta will be our next tight ends. With Laporta this past week, I know it was very frustrating against Tampa, but ultimately you can look at every single week before this. He had at least 4 targets, and we still want to say that the Detroit Lions will be a very good offense going into the future. Dallas Goedert obviously didn't really do anything when you had the blow up going for A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith this past week. But I have Dallas Goedert on my own team. I probably still plan on starting him in week 8 against the Giants. He is still averaging almost 14 points per game, and he is the tight ends, 4, only behind McBride, Tyler Ward, and Jake Ferg. Obviously, we're expecting regression, though. I don't think he's going to keep up the touchdown rate. And with Dalton Kincaid, there's not much to discuss here. You're looking at an unsustainable touchdown rate here as well. But, I mean, I'm willing to buy that the tight end that plays for the Buffalo Bills with not a ton of pass catchers can have an unsustainable touchdown rate. Now, Gadsden here is a tight end I'm going to be trying to pick up on the waiver wire this week. I actually currently have Hunter Henry as a backup option. I have a bid in to pick up Gadsden to drop Hunter Henry. Gadsden, right now, I don't think you care about his season-long averages. Rookie, that wasn't really playing at the beginning of the year. But again, if you go and look at that PFF chart that I love showing, you will see that he is playing more snaps every single week that goes by. And this past week, you had the massive blow up, 164 receiving yards, receiving touchdown. Looks like a young Darren Waller. Kyle Pitts has been trailing off. With Pitts, you had the 10 targets this past week. But ultimately, what I would like to see, I know this sounds bad, but if you're starting Kyle Pitts, you want Darnell Mooney out. You want one of these wide receivers out in Atlanta just so you have to get targeted a little more often. And Kyle Pitts is right back on his usual BS where the dude just simply does not score touchdowns. Then with Travis Kelce, I understand that he gets there with actually a surprisingly long play this past week. But realistically, you have Rashee Rice back, so I'm not going to be excited to start Kelce. I think the target volume is going to be tougher to come by. And then for Hunter Henry, I had him on my team. He's averaging 10.5 points per game. I'm going to go ahead and cut him. Harold Fannin averaging 9.5 points per game. It does look like David Njoku has a chance to come back soon. And once David Njoku comes back, Harold Fannin will be a much tougher start. Zach Ertz, super exciting when you have no Debo and you have no Terry because somebody has to catch the ball. But, I mean, honestly, now that you have no Jaden Daniels as well, I guess this offense isn't as exciting. And then you have TJ Hawkinson coming through. Almost had the touchdown this past week. If you would have caught that, I would have lost my mind because we possibly could have won if I started him over Goddard, but he didn't catch it, so it didn't matter. He only scored 10 points, but the targets have looked very concentrated between just Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. Now, going over to F tier, these are tight ends that I don't know if you want on your roster, but at the very minimum, put them on your watch list. Evan Ingram, 7.8 points per game so far this year. But I mean, now you just had Bo Nix go nuclear and Evan Ingram scored 9 points. Theo Johnson is actually having to get involved a lot more just with the Malik Neighbors injury. And if Jackson Dart truly can continue to elevate this offense, he will be very exciting. And maybe I just have some irrational hatred for Mark Andrews, but if Mark Andrews did nothing to open the season with no Isaiah Likely, I have no idea how you could ever trust him in your lineup. And then David Njoku looks like he is arguably the tight end 2 in one of the league's worst offenses. So not super excited about that either, especially with him coming off an injury. But I really appreciate y'all watching this. And of course, I want to remind y'all, if you wanted to go through and check out any of those projections on Underdog Fantasy, the link is in the description as well as the comment section. $100 added to your account after you play your first 5, and you'll get a free Justin Herbert pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for the Thursday night game. Underdog is currently the #1 app in the App Store because 1, they're an incredible app. 2, they're available in almost every state. And 3, they have the best promos in the industry right now. Code FLOCK with you, all those promos. Also, free questions that you can ask in the live stream that I'm doing every single day until Christmas. But I appreciate you and really hope that I'm able to see you out with the live stream later tonight.